Week 11 is up next in fantasy football. It's time to take a look at some early waiver wire players to target for Week 11, and it starts right now. It's a big day of football. You can do this. Make those good decisions. There's never a better time than this week. What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Fantasy Follow. This video is the early waiver wire players to target for Week 11. Now, normally when we do our waiver wire, we talk about the top 5 with some bonus names. We're recording this video before the end of the Monday night game this week, so we're going to talk early waiver wire players. We're not going to order them and rank them in terms of those top 5 with some bonuses because of the fact that one game is not in the books, but I think you'll get the idea. I'm not going to say it's a top 5, but you'll probably figure things out. Let's talk about these players, early waiver wire players to target for Week 11, starting with Cam Newton, returning to the Carolina Panthers. We saw him get some action in Week 10, currently rostered in 16% of all leagues. I think at this point, when a quarterback the caliber of Cam Newton appears with some potential, I think you have to take a look at this point, especially when you've got a quarterback that gives you the type of floor that Newton typically offers with his involvement in the rush game. The upcoming matchups for Newton, this is a great run of games, only bolsters his standing among players to target this week on the waiver wire. Next 4 weeks for Carolina, Washington, Miami, then a bye, then Atlanta. Fantasy points allowed to the quarterback spot by those teams. Washington, number 1, Miami, number 7, Atlanta, number 5. That's a great run of games if you're in need of a quarterback to stream or if you just want to bolster your team with a nice backup at that spot. I think Cam Newton worth a look this week. Next up, we got Dan Arnold. This guy is starting to prove himself in that offense for the Jacksonville Jaguars. At the tight end spot, it is tough to find players that give you consistent production, so we have to mention Dan Arnold at this point. Not the first time that we've thought about him on the waiver wire this year. Currently rostered in 26% of all leagues. Last week, 7 targets, 5 catches, 67 yards against the Colts. He has now had 4 double-digit fantasy point weeks in the last 5. Not a great run of games here. San Fran, Atlanta, the Rams, and Tennessee. The numbers in order are 24, 17, 11, and 27. But because of the involvement that Arnold is starting to see in that offense, we do think he's worthy. And I will say this, I don't think this is the strongest week ever on the waiver wire this week. I think for a lot of you, you may not be using your priority this week. You might be looking for somebody after the waivers clear. I don't think this is the strongest week. Perhaps some flyers out there. Arnold perhaps returns a little bit of value, but as we get down the rest of these names, you'll kind of see where I'm going with this. The next player up is Deontay Foreman. Who knows how to say this name, but I think pretty soon we might all be saying this name. The running back for Tennessee, we kind of expected Adrian Peterson to really be the guy with the unfortunate injury to Derrick Henry. Not sure if this might be going a different direction at this point. Foreman, currently rostered in 4% of all leagues. This last week, he does seem to be getting actually the bulk of the work between Peters and McNichols. It seems like Foreman has been more involved in the offense there. 11 rushes, 30 yards, also 2 targets and 2 catches for 48 yards through the air last week against New Orleans. We will see how this continues to shake out. A nice matchup in Week 11 playing against Houston, currently allowing the 10th most fantasy points to the running back spot. A bit of a prospective ad. Not sure if you're going to be willing to start this guy right now, but kind of a guy you might want to pick up, get on that roster just in case things keep going in the right direction there in Tennessee. Next up, kind of another guy in that same mold, Wayne Gallman from the Atlanta Falcons, currently rostered in just 1% of all leagues. Not necessarily what you would expect here. You would think, now it does look like Cordell Patterson is banged up, may miss some time. That's the reason why Gallman finds his way to the waiver wire players to target on today's video. However, last week, Gallman, 15 rushes, 55 yards, adding 2 targets and 1 catch for 21 yards through the air against Dallas. Was that just because they wanted to get their main guys out of there, or is Gallman going to have some value over Mike Davis in the absence of Patterson? Again, remains to be seen. Certainly Mike Davis has not wowed from a fantasy standpoint this year. So could this go a different way? We will see. Again, the matchup for Gallman this week, not great. Not a lot of great matchups ahead, actually, for this team. And it also depends, obviously, on how long Patterson does miss time. But this week, playing the Patriots, allowing the 17th most fantasy points to the running back spot. So right in the middle from that aspect. And then we've got Marcus Johnson, wide receiver from the Tennessee Titans, with Julio Jones on IR. Certainly the Titans pass game, again, has not wowed this year for any of the players involved in fantasy there. Johnson currently rostered again in just 1% of all leagues. This last week for Johnson, it was 6 targets, 5 catches, 100 yards against the New Orleans Saints. We will see how this goes. Playing Houston this week, Houston currently allows the 13th most fantasy points to the wide receiver spot. Then they've got New England, then a bye, and then Jacksonville. New England sits at 22 and Jacksonville at 9. So again, a few names on this list this week. Basically, what I would call flyers in terms of what can happen. Will they provide you some value or not? Hard to say. Some other names to look at. We saw Ramondre Stevenson have a nice game this week. Again, you're talking about what's happening with the injury status of Damian Harris. James Washington for Pittsburgh, same deal with Claypool. And then Jordan Howard has gotten some play for Philadelphia. But again, when Miles Sanders returns, as I've said on some previous live streams, I'm not very high on any of the Philadelphia backfield right now. I just feel like they haven't really proven that they want to go really in any direction at all. They're kind of all over the place. So tough to know who you want to start in that backfield at all. But at any rate, players to keep an eye on, early waiver wire players to target for Week 11. Be sure to check out our 6 picks game here on the Fantasy Follow. No cost to play in this game. It's for you, the viewers. Very simple 6 fantasy matchups that occur within the same games. This was our thumbnail from Week 10. It's real easy. Check out one of our previous videos if you want to take a look. Or if our new video is out by the time you check out this video, check out the new video. Pick the winners in the comments section on that video using PPR scoring based on who you think will have the better fantasy scoring day in each of the matchups. We keep the standings all season long, and the picks close at 1 o'clock Eastern time each Sunday. Very simply, a game for you guys to enjoy, and we hope you do enjoy playing that 6 picks game. We thank you for checking out our early waiver wire players to target for Week 11. As always, if you are enjoying our content, please feel free to drop us a like, and if you have not done so yet, subscribe to the channel. The likes and the subscribes really do help out the channel a ton. And as always, good luck in fantasy. We'll see you next time.